Okay, some of you may go out for lunch. I think it is okay because we can, you can come back and view the playback in the Data group. Okay, I think in this session I will maybe shorten the time, and then we will give more time for you to the rest, maybe half an hour to 40 minutes to make sure you have enough time to get the dinner. Okay, let's continue to introduce this Bigdata DataWorks. In the previous session, we have introduced the DataWorks is actually interface to connect some other compute engines in Alibabacloud, like in Max Compute and like in real-time compute and Hadoop on cloud. Now we are actually created one project, but what we created is this demo W06 project. But we are not going to enter into this project because there's no data in this project. I will go into already created project because we have testing data. It takes some time to build the testing data in a new project. So I just directly to jump in this already existing project. In the last part of this project, you can see there's several options for you to choose. There's workspace settings, service configuration, data analysis. So no matter what it is, we want to go to the data integration, and then we can make sure to go into this DataWorks. And this is actually one component for DataWorks. Like I introduced, the DataWorks is actually a very functional, have lots of components. And in the first time, you may gonna lose in this DataWorks, but as you're using it, I think you will love that because it will have all the components you need during the whole data life cycle. Because those functions you can see here, there's a lot of components in DataWorks. But those functions is actually from the customer's request, even internal Alibaba group and outside of Alibaba group. So the data integration is actually one component in this DataWorks. And we can go into this data integration, this is the home page of that. There's a lot of navigate icons, so we can first using this connection because we want to build some connections to some data source. Okay, this is what we call the data source. And we can add a connection. You can see there's a lot of data source we can support for you to connect. The number one is relational database. I think you may find the database you are quite familiar, like MySQL, Oracle database, and some other Alibaba Cloud ecosystem database. We can also support you connect to a big data storage like Vertica and HBase and even Apache Hive. We can also support semi-structured data and NoSQL, real-time, something like that. If there is one specific data source is not listed here, don't worry about that. We provide a script mode for you to write specific connectors to your specific data source. Okay, those are the data sources we have created. So we have created the Lightning, like MySQL and OSS, which is the like S3 in AWS. It's an object storage service. And we can enter into some connection strings like bucket name, access ID, and access secret, and endpoint information to get connect. Okay, we already connected the MySQL and the OSS. There are some other source you can also connect. When we build the connection, we want to import some data. So we can new a task. And when we click this new task, we can see we actually jump into another component, which we call DataStuido. So DataStuido is actually where the developers, most of their time was spent on this DataStuido. This is actually one dashboard. Let me assume that this is our first time to jump into this. DataStudio. I will close all these. Okay, this is actually the first, the dashboard of your DataStudio. Let's assume that if you want to draw some pictures or do some paintings, the first thing you need is to have a canvas and or a paper. So I think this is a paper or dashboard for you to build all your applications. In here, I'm not sure if the first time you go here, you may not know where to start. I think the first thing you may start is this business flow, is to create a business flow. Let me create a workflow. Okay, give that a name called workflow demo1 create. So this workflow is just like you create a canvas, prepare a paper where you can draw your pictures. And this is actually a dashboard you can using this component to do your work. The workflow, I think you may need what we call zero load node. I will introduce this first. Zero load node. So what does it mean? Zero load node, you can see from its name, it does nothing. just indicate where to start. You can give it a name like the workflow one start. It does nothing. It is not. Actually, it does something, right? You double click this workflow start node. You can see there is a property which is not easy to find, but it's actually in the right hand sidebar. You go into property. You can actually do some scheduling. Yes, that is. It's just like a Linux cron job. If you are familiar with Linux operating system, you can tell the start when to start. You can define the scheduling policy like every day, maybe 2 o'clock, or every Friday, 3 o'clock, something like that. You can define that. Or every weekday, you can select Monday weekday, so we can remove the weekend, right? Something like this, and run at maybe 2 o'clock, something like this. So you can indicate or to configure when to start about this start point. Then the next, you may want to import some data from different data source. You may use this batch synchronization job. Okay, we just drag and drop, give it a name like a sync from MySQL, something like this. Okay, and you drag and drop another type like a sync from OSS commit. Using this one to indicate the workflow. Next one, you can using some Python code or Spark. We are actually support 2 versions of Spark. Spark 1 is 1.7 and the other is 2.3. So you can write down a Spark code on this component. You can also write down some Python code or some ODPS SQL. Like I want to do a join, something like that. You can join those 2 tables and auto layout. You can build something like this. Okay, you can write down some. We double click to this synchronization job. So it will give you some configurations let you to choose. Like the first column, connection. It will let you to indicate the data source and target. Our data source is from MySQL. This data source you have already created in our data integration, right? We go connections. Let's give you a recap for that part. Those are the data sources we have already created. So this is the name, and this is MySQL database. So this is the name, this is the connection name. And if everything is okay, it will give you all the tables listed here. You can just choose one table and select the target. Okay, if you want to do some filtering, you can write some where clause here, so to do some filtering. If you want to import the data concurrently, so you can specify the short key, which is usually the primary key. If everything is okay, you can do some preview. Okay, let me choose another table. Okay, that's have some data in that. And the destination is, of course, DataWorks. But the end of the hold is actually Max Compute. So Max Compute have an old name which we call ODPS. So the table, this is maybe, these are the table in Max Compute. So you may predefine that. Okay. So when the source table and destination table are configured, it will automatically generating this mapping. You can configure this mapping to determine which column you're going to import. You can also find the concurrency, max concurrency for your job. And if you don't want to affect the production environment data transforming, you can using this bandwidth throughout, give you some limitations to that. Okay, that's the data integration. And you can also configure this scheduling policy for this one. And same logic for this from OSS. Okay, I have already defined one workflow. So let me directly go to this workflow. So you can define this complicated workflow, and it will. And then you may want to go to deploy. So it will submit to the scheduling system, and it can run as your predefined. Okay, that's the maybe the workflow for that, and we will go to some important features for this DataWorks. So you double click into one data block, it will show you can write down some SQL statement, something like this, and we have some versions. You can roll back to specific version, and if you're not for sure what is have changed, you can select two versions that give you a compare. You can give it a compare, so then you can see what have changed and which version you need to roll back. So this is very user friendly to developers, I think. Okay, this is DataWorks for developers to define workflow. And there's also some other important features. Let's say in this project, we may introduce lots of people working on the same project. So if you want to invite some person, you can directly go to this what we call workspace manage. There's an icon in the top right called workspace manage. You can go directly into this workspace management, go into user management. You can see there's a lot of users in this in your project. You can also add a member. So this member you're going to add is actually a RAM account. RAM account is it's just like the AWS IAM account. It is a sub account for the under the main account. Okay, we are going to use this RAM, which we call resource access management. Go to user to create one sub account. Let's say this is a developer 06. It's called Derek Meng, and we console log on, customize a password. Okay, let's give it a password. Require next, yes, and no, we don't want to reset. Okay, so real verification code. Let me check that. Obtain verification code through the mobile device. Okay, we can see that we created this sub-account successfully. So then we can go switch back to this DataWorks, and we can do a refresh. We can see this newly created RAM account. We can add it into our DataWorks workspace. We can assign as a developer role or security expert. How about we assign as a security and developer role? Oh, okay, this is a developer 06. It's newly added today. So about the different roles permission list, there is a description about which role can do what kind of operations against in this project. Okay, that's the user management. You can introduce many members, project members into this project and assign different role for that. Okay, if some new members want to apply some permissions, because by default the new members have no privilege of the tables because we have some tables in this project like this. We have some tables. The new users may not have the permission to read and select the tables. You may need to apply the permissions for that. We go into this table. In this what we call tenant table, and we view that, and we apply the permission. You can see that apply the permission here. This is a table name, and this is an apply for permission. And I think it is changed to English. They are not. We can choose that and to submit these applications like 1 month test. It will go to approve center, so you can get your senior management to approve all the table owners to approve or agree or reject your applications according to the real situations. So that's we integrate the permission workflows in this DataStudio. Okay, that's maybe some general functions in this DataWorks. You can do lots of development works. We also can support some workflows, some complicated workflows in this area. Let's we have for each loop, do well loop, and have branch node or assignment to give you a judgment. Let me give you one example of our previous customer. One of our customers, they have those kind of workflow. Is they need to decide every day. They need to check if today is the last day of current month. They need to check that every day. So to see if today is the last day of current month. If it is the last day of current month, it will generate one monthly report. But if it is not the last day of current month, it will just continue as usual. So we may use this as a assign node and to check if it is today is the last day of current month. I think it is pretty easy in Python code. And then we have introduced this branch node to redirect this workflow to different branch according to the value. So this is for the advanced.